Hey Nick,
Hello.
here we are at the bar again.
We can't get enough. How are
It's
you?
up. I'm well. How are you?
I'm well, having a great week. Yes,
Amazing. I'm
yes,
just so stoked that I get to see you in real life in 2 weeks, possibly at this bar in real life.
yes, we
So,
have to. Can we please squeeze it in?
yeah. And for
Good.
those of you that don't know the long and short lore, it started at this tiki bar that is now our virtual background. So if you're in Melbourne and you would like some free manager guidance, founder advisory, or just general laughs, come to the Luau in a couple weeks and see us.
Early
Uh,
March, come and find us.
yeah. So we're on to talent management, and I think we had this like aha moment, right? That it's not a one and done 10-minute episode. So we need to really break this down. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about where should we start because there is way too much happening in the world. What do we need to cover to help people in the right
Oh, I think talent management was our last topic in our series, in our performance series, and we probably, to your point, need to do a few of those. But starting right at the top, we I'm not personally finding a lot of companies are taking this seriously and doing the things that I would expect us to be seeing and doing. And that's the conversation. And moving away from a complex framework, if you think back to the good old days of 9 box matrices and tables and spreadsheets and who's your hypo, who's your high potential and who's your emerging potential and who would you promote now, all of that wonderful stuff. But I think I'm been such a big fan for a number of years now. If you know me, you'll know that I'm all about simplifying so that you can focus more on having the conversation. So for me, I'd love for us this year to just double down on convos and just don't worry too much about frameworks and processes. The other big thing is I'm seeing we're getting lost in we need to we need to treat everyone equally, and which I agree with justice, equality, equity. I'm a big, massive fan of that. Everybody knows that. But when you start saying, I don't want to assess performance or potential because everybody's the same, and I don't want to start putting people in boxes, you're essentially saying, I don't want to have this conversation. I think with some some conversations, I'm seeing that go too far the other way. Um, and I want to warn against that. What are your thoughts on this?
you sparked two really distinct thoughts that I have, which is oftentimes when we talk about equitable, fair comes up and treating people the same, as you mentioned, comes
Mm.
up. And I always like to pause and say equitable does not equal the same. Equitable is consistency in how you address certain things. So, for example, performance. If you say everyone is the same, you're not going to drive a high performing culture and you're going to be spreading budgets like peanut butter. You're not incentivizing potentially. I mean, maybe you are, maybe that's the culture you want. We all win together, we all treat each other the same, regardless of effort and impact. But if you're trying to drive high performance, you really need to think strategically about what are the different things that we will reward and recognize. And it's okay that we have, say, two software engineers level and one's making 20K more because they've been here 3 years longer, giving that effort and impact, and potentially have been the person that you go to unlock a capability that's given your business a competitive edge. Like that is a justifiable reason why you might give someone a bigger increase in that, for example. But to your point on frameworks versus convos, I would say the framework is there to help inspire the convo. It shouldn't be the be all end all. If you want a great reimagined 9 box, like send me a note. We did one at Signal Fire. It's brilliant. You don't need a whole session on that. So I love the idea of conversations. And there's just so much we could talk about, but I know you've had like a special request from one of our viewers. So why don't you tee us up with what that request was, and we can go into detail of how we might guide that particular conversation.
Yeah, sounds good. We were talking recently about all the changes in the world and the various changes in the US with government changes and the various announcements around diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, or things changing in that space. The conversation was around how do we help our employees make sense of everything in the world? How do we check on how they're going? How do we assure them as a company that we're always going to be, regardless of what's happening around us, all about inclusion and belonging?
Yeah.
And how do we do that? How we do that is more about our actions, not our words, which should be another episode. But it was more about in the moment, how do we check in with our employees and how do we give people leaders the tools to have a check-in with their employees in their one-on-one conversations or with each other. And what are some of the tools that people leaders can benefit from when sometimes they have different ideas and ideals, they have different capacity or capability levels around having these conversations. So yeah, that's the topic that's been put to us to have a bit of a chat about. What do you think?
I love it. I was talking to someone about this like literally an hour ago. And so I'll reiterate some of the things
Nice.
they said, which was brilliant, but also expand on that. And that is, you have to first ask yourself if you're in a leadership position and you're dealing with all of this chaos, especially if you're in America, but a lot of companies, let's face it, even in Australia, have American counterparts, is to ask, like, how are you personally coping with everything going on? Because I can tell you now, who I was and how I coped living in it is very different from watching it from afar, like with my popcorn going, whoa, this is a circus. But I think if you can ask yourself, how are you personally coping? You can make a very clear differentiation around, am I able to engage in these conversations in a way that is supportive, or am I projecting my own feelings onto this person? Because you may think that someone's really anxious about it and want to engage in it, but the reality is their work is their escape from it and the news, and they don't want to talk about it. Or you may assume it's really hard for them and project that, but actually it's not. And so, what I would recommend most managers do, regardless of their own individual level of capability or feeling of confidence going into these conversations, is to approach it not from a place of trying to solve someone's issues. We are not counselors. We are not therapists. By the way, we're not trained or certified to do that. And sometimes it feels like we do that.
Yeah.
But you can hold space for people. And I think that's most important. I am going to take my own medicine on this because I'm usually coming into any conversation with the solution mindset. And I'm like, oh, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? Oh, I feel the same way, trying to relate to someone. But in these scenarios, it's much better and effective to say, I just want to check in. There's a lot happening in the world. How are you doing? And leave it open and not go into the DEI regulations that are changing, not go into, the pay equity issues that are probably going to come out of this, not go into some of the heavy topics, but open it and see what is top of mind for them. Maybe they're really worried about a friend or a family member who's in the transgender community. Like, you just never know what's going to come out of it. And so leaving it open gives them space to share. And then really your role is just to, as I call it, hold the lemons. You're not trying to do anything with them, but you're just holding space. And so it's okay to not have a solution. It's okay not to project your own feelings. It's okay not to engage in like judgment. I think that's the scary part for managers. It's like, I have a certain feeling about our president, but like maybe the person I'm meeting with doesn't. And I don't want that to cloud my perception of them or like how much I respect them. And so like there's certain taboo areas you don't want to get into. And so I would just recommend, holding that space and saying, thank you so much for sharing. Here's how I'm coping. I don't know if that's helpful or not. If there's certain things that you think would be helpful for you to cope, like, even just me engaging in the conversation, is that going to be a distraction for you or is it helpful for you? And then seeing what they say, because ultimately you want to acknowledge it. Not acknowledging it is worse, but you also want to respond in a way that's helpful and not hindering it more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What about you?
You reminded me a few months ago, we did an episode on how to have conversations about politics in the workplace and what are the ground rules to having that. So, yeah, if you're watching this, you should go and find the other episode. I think that would be helpful as well if you're having a conversation about big topics where you may not even be aligned with the person on the same page or on the same book. But if you're a people leader, you have a different role, to your point, Nick, which is the well-being of that individual more so than your own views or how you're feeling, because hopefully you're getting that looked after with your own people leader and with different ways as well. Sharing with your direct report, I want to just double down on that. Sharing with your direct report is part of building trust. Because building that the trust equation, the big fat I in that is intimacy. And intimacy in the workplace sense is sharing vulnerable moments and sharing a little bit about who you are with your direct report, so that you can build that trust, and so that you're demystifying that people leaders are some weird mythical creatures that don't have feelings. So it's okay to share, to your point, especially around here's how I'm coping, but at the same time respecting that you're there looking after, you're here to look after someone's well-being in the workplace as well. Yes, they're responsible for their well-being on a whole, but you're in charge of a big chunk of their week in terms of how you impact, the impact that you have on that. And so a lot of feedback I get in terms of when I'm a people leader from my direct reports is everyone has loved, and if any of them are watching this, I'd love to see if I'm about to miss something or misrepresent something. Everyone loves when I say, what does support look like for you right now?
Nice.
So following up with the how are you, or how's it going, a lot of things going on in the world, following up with what you've just described, Nick, always have a second place to hold the silence and the space to say, where do we go from here in this conversation? And sometimes it's not a one and done. So it's not a great, we've had this chat, awesome, yay, everything's good now, let's not talk about this again. I also get what I call a verbal contract in terms of how do you want me to check in on you going forward about this topic. So here are the ground rules. If I ask you how are you next week and you're not in the mood to talk about it, let's agree that you have permission to say, Nick, I don't want to talk about it today. Next, let's change topics. The power's with you. It's up to you to choose how you engage with the how are you and how much we talk about things and how little we talk about things. And when you're in a well-being check-in, they're not coaching conversations, they're not mentoring conversations, they're not leadership conversations. So they shouldn't end with, what are you going to do differently after this check-in?
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. Don't use it as a coaching moment.
Yeah, because a lot of us are programmed to, be action focused, outcome oriented. What am I getting out of this conversation? What am I going to do differently? How am I going to think differently? That's overwhelming. Sometimes your direct reports just want a space to talk, to vent, to chat, and no action required at the end of that conversation. So just say, okay, let's leave it here. I'll check in next time and see what support looks like or what else you need from me. Sometimes you need to get permission. My third and final piece is you need to get permission. If you're experiencing something very personal, let's go a bit more personal and use a different example around health issues, for example. If your employee is experiencing something personal and they're being vulnerable with you, it's great. 2 minutes ago, I just said intimacy equals trust, and you need to share your personal experiences. Don't overdo that so it's accidentally not coming across as apathy, or let me make this conversation about me and my health issues because I'm trying to relate to you. So it's really important to say, I've had a similar experience, or I've had a different experience, but I think there are some reflections that might help you. Would you like me to share? And you've already got the psych safety by then for your direct report to say, actually, I'm not up for hearing that right now. Can we do that next week? Or I don't want to hear it. Everyone's trying to give their advice or their personal story. I want to hear it. And you're like, okay, no problem. What else do you want to talk about? So I think these are really key pieces that make the meeting or the conversation more about the person and create that psych safety.
Yeah. And I just put a name from like a legalese standpoint. Managers typically don't know they have due diligence that they have to carry out when certain things are disclosed in these conversations. So I know we're talking more broadly of different topics that can come up, but to your point around like medical conditions, I had a manager once who said, I don't know if I handled this conversation right. I had a direct report come and say, I have anxiety, which is contributing to some of my performance issues that we've been discussing. And the manager's immediate response was to relate. And so rather than say, thank you for being vulnerable and disclosing that to me. I've had similar experiences if you ever want to chat about it, but here's what I can offer you in this moment, which is like we have support beyond just me. And here's how to go about getting that if you want to. Again, not like a call to action, but just awareness. And instead, that employee felt like, okay, I've just shared something really vulnerable, and you've come back saying, yeah, I deal with that too, and the anxiety. And so what do you do from there? And it turned out that that employee luckily came to us to kind of complain. But had we not known that and the manager hadn't come for feedback, that just then that conversation breaks trust and breaks that psych safety. And at the end of the day, if that person ended up on a performance plan because of general performance things, and then they came back in a termination meeting and said, by the way, I disclosed this medical condition and nothing was done about it, that is a huge personal liability for the manager. And I think a lot of managers don't realize in lawsuits, you can be personally named. It's not just the company.
Yep.
And the company can be at risk. And so again, like in the spirit of truly wanting to check in on someone's well-being and offer support, these are these pivot moments. So if you ever do get that, anything medical related, you can help me, Nick. I forget what it's called in Australia, but it's called a reasonable accommodation in America. And there's a whole process you go through. And the beauty as a manager, unless you're an HR manager who is a manager, is you can say, I have an HR person in our team that can help you with that if you ever want to explore accommodations. I think it's adjustment here. Is that reasonable adjustment?
Reasonable adjustment. Nice.
Similar process, like where you would have them disclose, it's an interactive process. And then you can determine, is that reasonable or not for what we need from your role? And it also avoids that like weird moment for managers of like, can I performance manage and hold this at the same time? Usually when a medical thing comes up, they go, oh, not touching performance at all.
Yeah.
And that's actually a disservice to both the person and the company. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on it. Just
I love that. Thank you. That's great. And we used to I still do this a lot. I do a lot of role plays when I'm teaching leaders how to be good coach versus bad coach, good mentor versus bad mentor, good leader versus bad leader. I do a lot of role plays, and we have a lot of fun around how to relate when relating is good and when relating is not good, when validating is important and when not, and when validating can be detrimental.
Right.
It just sparked the thought that we should do some role plays on these podcasts and have some fun, because there's such a powerful way to learn as well.
I think this is maybe one point of difference for us. So I'm just going to name it. I hate
Go
role
on.
but I'm willing to give it a go for you. I always start my manager training by saying, like, I'm not going to make you do awkward role plays, but I do think there is validity in it when you either have a trained actor, absolutely, or in this case, when like I can be your worst employee ever, and I'm kind of excited for that. So maybe we could do a couple next time as we go through the conversation.
Oh. Awesome. Always experimenting with adult learning and how to help people embed the learning, because it's so easy to consume knowledge, but how do you apply it?
Yeah.
Love the conversation.
And the fun part with managers is the only way to apply it is on your actual direct reports most of the time, right? And so we learn by failing. Unfortunately, we usually learn by what not to do because we've experienced it on the side.
So true.
But there's got to be better ways. So if I tried to rope Charlie, my partner Charlie, into it because he used to be an actor. I had him do some interview role playing once for a training, and it was pretty fun. So I think we can get there. But maybe you'll convert me, and I'll be won over back into role playing.
Nice.
So
Nick, just quickly back on DEI check-ins and conversations relating to DEI. Can I please one shout out to all the people leaders?
yes.
Please check on your allies as well. Like the focus rightly should be on the communities who are impacted, but not forgetting that allies generally have a lot of empathy and they're feeling a lot of things. Please check on them as well. I've had in the past a few people leaders who go, oh, I don't have anyone in the team who's impacted by this bit of news. everybody's good here. Actually,
Yeah.
no, your team is watching next door and they're suffering for that person or they're feeling for that person. How are you helping them process all that?
That's a great call out. Yeah, just because you can visual ID someone or you have intel because they've disclosed something to you,
Mm,
it doesn't mean that's the only person who needs support because you might have, close family, friends that are also feeling it. And that's, yeah, really important.
yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, I think this is a good start to our talent management conversations. I guess we're kind of transitioning. They're almost crucial conversations in a different light. So we'll keep it going. If you have special requests, let us know. Otherwise, we will see you soon. And recognizing that in 2 weeks, we will be in the real luau. And in 3 weeks, we've got a really fun conference coming up. So watch the space because I think we will transition out of the luau virtual bar and more into some real life adventures that we are excited to share with you.
Can't wait.
All right. Thanks, Nick. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.